Welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with Daniel.
And Daniel.
And today is our weekly Chits and Giggles discussion topic where we invite you at home to talk with us through Facebook, and we bring up a topic that we want to discuss. We try to go a little bit out of the ordinary with these mostly. But this week we went with, at first, we were both really excited for it, and it was kind of difficult for us. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I had a really tough time. In fact, I probably did not nail down the games that I wanted for this topic till about 20 minutes before we started recording.
Right. And see, I came in with a few more, like right here at the end as I was looking through my collection. And, and I have just like small little reasons for it. But I definitely have the three that I'm going to do. And I have some honorable mentions that we're going to talk about and why I want them reprinted for different reasons. So let's talk about what we meant by reprinting. First off, I thought of it in like three different categories. First would be if it's out of print. If the game just isn't being printed right now, for whatever reason, it's out of print, and we feel that it should come back. The second category that I thought that this would include would be reprints that the original versions had really poor quality. Maybe we want it, like we like the games, but we just wish that it would, like they would reprint it with a little bit better components maybe. And then the final one would be reprinted with a full out, like as if restorations games got it and reprinted it and reworked the game, streamlined it. Those are kind of the three categories that I put my games into and which ones, and I do have them separated as such. So, what about yours?
I just got a second honorable mention, so that helped me out thinking about it.
Cool, perfect. So, how did you approach this list?
I approached it in two ways. Not like in your topics, but one, a game I really, really enjoy and would like a deluxe version of it or a better quality version of it. Some of the games on this list that I have aren't great quality. Also, I know this might be a topic that we use later on down the road, but some of them just needed updated rules or just fixing of the rules, making them a better, more streamlined game.
Gotcha.
And then finally, it's just, like you were saying earlier, a reprint or fixing or a restoration copy or something like that.
Cool. Awesome.
Me, I went more of the deluxe rather than the reprint, but...
Yeah. I mean, like, there was versions of it where some of the fancy components, like, man, they would be phenomenal games. Yeah. I can't help but compare it to Grim Forest. So, Grim Forest, have you ever played that one?
No, I've seen it, looked at it a couple times.
Yeah. Gorgeous game, great artwork, phenomenal components, really overproduced. And I played it with my kids the other day, and it's just a family weight game. It could be like in like a deck of cards. That's all it needs to be. But the way that they produced it, it has minis. It's one of the biggest boxes on my shelf, where like really all you have is a token, but it's a miniature about that big, and it's like maybe a troll under a bridge, and it's this heavy like 1 pound piece of plastic because they need to. And they have game trays for it. They have 3D buildings like that you're building up and stuff. But it could have been just a card game. And so I can't help but think, it's like, well, some of these games I think would be really cool if they did that to it. So.
Alright, so we both have two honorable mentions in three games that for sure we want.
And for some reason, Daniel, the audio cut out. I'm not sure why.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, it did. Good.
Okay. So we both have 5 games, 2 honorable mentions, and 3 for sure games we want reprinted. Why don't you go ahead and start us off with the first honorable mention?
Well, before we do, why don't we go to the viewer comments on Facebook, and let's see what the viewers at home were actually talking about and what they wanted to see.
All right, so I do have it pulled up. Again, we do this a lot on Board Game Revolution off Facebook. We put a topic out there of the topic that we're going to discuss, and you're more than welcome to add to it. Katia posted that she wants Carcassonne the Castle reprinted. She hears it's the best one of all the Carcassonne games, and it's impossible to find unless you pay a fortune.
Yeah, I've played the castle. I used to own it. There's also the city as well that I used to own. That one was actually by Reiner Knizia, which is different. The castle, if I'm not mistaken, had wood tower or wood walls that you would actually build on the outside of the tiles, so you couldn't build outward from there. But I think it would also consider those as end pieces as well. So if you had a road going into a wall, it would end the road, and therefore you could score it. So you could either place down a tile or one of the castle pieces, and I might be wrong with that, but yeah, that's been out of print for a long time. It's one of the offshoots of Carcassonne, and
Never played it.
yeah, it looks really good. I know you're not the biggest fan of Carcassonne, right?
I'm okay with it. I'm not a fan of the farmers in Carcassonne.
Sure, that's fair.
I mean, I own it. I have a copy down there somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, which that makes sense, and that's a rule that now they've said is optional. You don't have to play with the farmers, so I don't know if you want to play it without, but I'm cool with the farmers. I like it.
Well, I haven't hit the table in a couple years, but I do own it. I did enjoy it.
Mm. Yeah. I believe the audio cut out again.
That's weird.
Okay. Yeah, because I saw your lips moving, but.
Yeah, no, you cut out on my side too, so I don't know if it's Skype that means.
Yeah, maybe a poor connection of some kind. All right. Well, we'll just keep an eye on that in case we'll just repeat as needed, and then that'll be more work for you to edit, unfortunately.
Yay me.
Yay you.
Gotta learn how to clip videos now. Yay me.
Have you done it, or has there been any other comments on this list?
There's one more from Peter, and he states he just wants a reprint of Looping Louie. He loaned his copy out to a tournament, and it was missing parts on its return. Never again will I loan out of eyesight, he says.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I have my copy of Lupin Louie, and as soon as I bought as soon as I had the 3D print add-ons to it, it went out of print. And
man.
For the longest time, it was a Target exclusive, or not Target exclusive, Toys R Us exclusive. Well, that explains why it's out of print right now, because I think they somehow still have the rights to it or something. I don't know, but I haven't seen it on Walmart shelves or Target.
It might be part of the sell.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it was a shame.
Issue, but I prefer the reprint Looping Chewy.
Of course, yeah, you like the theme better. I don't like that it only plays 3 players, though.
Yeah, I'll give you that. That's a bit much, but it's just a fun little game. More so an activity than an actual game.
Right. Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and start with this. Thank you to the viewers for joining in on that and telling us your thoughts. So my first honorable mention before we get into the actual 3 that I want, this is more of like a collection of games that I want reprinted, and I'll explain why. I have been collecting the Spiel des Jahres winners, and I have all but I want to say 5. And as far as I know, these 5 have never had a U.S. release, ever. And so it includes everything like Auf Ausch, Reifenbright, all of like the older German games that won the Game of the Year that never got printed in America. And so now, I mean, I could go buy a copy of Reifenbright from Germany that's in a language I don't even know for about $100 plus shipping from Europe. I mean, I can't. That's ridiculous to do that. So the first one, Tortoise and Hare, got reprinted and reskinned by Yellow Games and another company, and they did Around the World in 80 Days, and that was a phenomenal production. It's a huge thick box. It's like a drawer box that comes out. Great pieces, beautiful components. It's absolutely phenomenal. And so I would just like to see all like the Spiel winners be reprinted, just so that way I can get a hold of them. That's really more of a personal thing. I don't care if they update it or whatever. I mean, English rules, of course, but that's what I'm looking forward to. That's my first honorable mention.
That's not bad. I've played some of the Spiel winners. I think we did the math, and I've played 8.
Somewhere between 8 and 10. Yeah, you played more than you thought, but it wasn't quite enough where we could do a top 10.
Yeah, with honorable mentions.
With honorable mentions, yeah.
So my first honorable mention here is a game that is currently in print. In fact, it's part of its own line as well, its own world, I guess you could say. And this is just for the simple fact where I say this would be a second edition that would fix some of the problems, and that's Champions of Midgard.
Oh,
They need
okay.
to print the base game with Valhalla in it.
I agree.
Valhalla made Champions of Midgard a much better game. I personally enjoyed the base game, but I refuse to play this game without at minimum the Valhalla expansion.
Yeah.
Because at least if your dice die and you roll bad, you still get something out of it.
Right.
And this is something that needs to be in the base game.
I remember the first time you showed me Champions of Midgard, I was underwhelmed hugely. And everybody was like, oh, it's the best Kickstarter game. You gotta try it. It's amazing. I spent like $70 on it now, and I love it so much. And then I played it. I was like, okay, I wouldn't spend money on that. That was awful. And I remember, and I didn't like it that much. But then one of our friends came over and played it with the Valhalla expansion. And I begrudgingly went, okay, fine. I guess I'll play it. And it was good. That expansion fixed it. It really did. So, I mean, if they made like an essential version of it, that would make sense. Just kind of like how they did with Viticulture.
Yeah,
Like they,
with the expansions that make it a better game. And honestly, I think Champions of Midgard, if they ever do reprint this, because I mean, it's still out there and you still can currently get it. But I would say if you do buy it, buy Valhalla with it. It fixes the main gripe everybody had with Champions of Midgard.
Right. Right, that makes sense. So my other honorable mention are two other games, and the two games, and they're very different, and technically I want them reprinted for the opposite reason, and I'll explain why. And they're both technically in print right now. You could go buy copies from stores. But the first one I'm going to give the example of is Acquire. It's been in print since like the 60s, by Sid Saxon, and it's owned by Avalon Hill right now, and they are still producing it. They print every like 5 years or something. They do that. But the components are consistently bad. The most recent version, which I do own somewhere in my list, it's a decent version. The components are better, but it's still paper money. It's still cardboard tiles that you draw at random. It's not anything that I think could be deluxified, and I think that puts off a lot of people because of it. It's like you're laying down these tiles that have coordinates on it, like it might say J5, and you put that in J5, but it's just a black tile with white letters. That's it. The original one had like wood letters, and it looked like Scrabble tiles. So you're thinking like they're supposed to represent buildings and businesses, and then when they actually physically become connected, they merge, which is a fun concept.
They represent stocks, is what they're supposed to represent.
Basically, yeah, but really they're just grid tiles, and it looks awful. And so I've always been disappointed every copy of that I got, but it's been a phenomenal game I've had on my list. But then the other game that I have for the other reason is Senate, which technically they sell copies at like museums and whatever, but they're made out of like this hardwood and overproduced. And Senate's a fun game, but they charge like $40-50 for a copy of it, which why would you buy a $40-50 reprint of an old game that most people would properly assume?
Some of those Senate ones are really nice though.
Oh yeah,
but these are really nice wood, and
but I want them to reprint it. I want them to reprint it in a less deluxe quality, is what I'm saying. Like, so I want that to be like a $15 game sitting at like the impulse buy at Walmart, and then like is like a box about yay big, a little tuck box, some pieces and whatnot, and you know exactly what you need to do. That would be fantastic. Get it into more people's homes and get them loving it as much as people like backgammon. Senate is a way better game, and it plays very similar. So so the opposite reason, I want a better version of Acquire and a worse version of Senate, or less expensive. So that was my other honorable mentions.
My last honorable mention is it's an older game. It's one that you actually showed me, and it's currently in reprints, and I've seen some extra copies and stuff. But I really want a really nice copy of this, and it's a Sid Saxon game.
Okay. I'm
Can't
curious.
stop.
Can't stop. Ah. Yeah, it's right there. And I looked at it. I was like, well, I mean, technically it's in print, but not
Yeah,
really. No.
but I want a nice version of it. Give me a nice
Hmm.
board grid thing that you can plug the dice in, or your little character to climb up the thing.
Yeah.
Uh, you can even upgrade it with kind of looking at like Strike, how they upgrade it, and the dice have special abilities as well.
Oh, yeah, they
So
changed it to Impulse.
yeah, so there's ways that you can work this and make it more deluxeified, make it more gamey, I guess you could say, with power, and still give you that push your luck mechanism. That
Right.
to me, this is one of my favorite push your luck games, and
Wow.
and it needs a good version of it. It
Yeah.
really does. I mean, the version you have is what the
It's the face to face brand one, which is no longer a company anymore, and it does have a plastic stop sign board. And it's pretty
yeah.
good. I think I'm gonna go on a limb and say Eagle Griffin owns it now. Um,
Yeah, someone owns it. Yeah,
yeah, I think they own the rights to most Sid Saxon games, other than a few like Can't Stop or Acquire.
yeah, and so I think Can't Stop needs a upgraded version of it. It's such a fun game, especially for something that's been around for what, it came out in the '60s.
Can't Stop was in '80s. I think it was 1984. It was nominated for the Spiel.
Okay, now the sound came back.
Okay, yeah, it was nominated for the Spiel. In I want to say like '84, but
Okay, so '80s, but still,
yeah.
I mean, I was born in the '80s, and I'm old.
Well, that's a good comparison.
So honestly, I think it needs a good deluxe version. Give me some really nice dice quality. Give me a really nice board, whether it's plastic or even wood. Wood would be nice. It'd be expensive as crap, but
An inlaid
I
wood
think
board, that would be
it would be
phenomenal.
worth it though, honestly, because it's such a good game.
Did you know that they made an expansion for Can't Stop?
No, I did not.
Yeah, they actually made an expansion, and it's, from what I hear, one of the worst things ever created. It is there. It's a series of tiles that you mix up and put face down on every spot on the board, and when you land on it, you reveal the tile, and it can do anything from move you back to punish other people to move you forward to get bonuses.
Yeah, no.
And it's all just super. It took a mentally stimulating game and made it super random and unpleasant. From what I've heard, I've seen it played. I don't want it in my collection. But a good expansion would be fantastic.
Oh no, yeah, and then just a deluxe version of the game itself would be fantastic.
Sure. Good pick. I give you credit for that. That'd be great. All
It is
right.
out again.
I think it. I think it's your headphones that's cutting out because I'm hearing everything as far as this. Although it might be Twitch buffering it. I'm
But we're on Skype, but just give me a second. I am actually going to go back to the old headphones, and we'll go from there.
Sure. We're gonna take a quick pause as we go in. If there's anybody in the comments who would like to suggest games that they would like to see reprints, by all means, come join us in. We're going to take this quick break. I hope I'll get the package today.
All right, hold on, really quick.
Sure.
Headphones, okay.
Live technical troubleshooting.
All right, there we go.
All right. Cool.
So I have my old headphones in. I was using my Bluetooth, but for some reason they just weren't. I'm actually using my wife's Bluetooth headphones, but they weren't working properly. So let's see if this helps out.
Old headphones it is.
Yep.
All right. So, do you want to kick us off, or do you want me to?
I'll go ahead and kick us off with my first game, which technically just had a reprint, but I want a better reprint of it. And actually, there's going to be another game on this list that is on that same boat.
Okay.
And so, in this one, this is Stone Age. I want don't get me wrong, the 10th anniversary edition, very beautiful with the snow side and everything.
Yeah.
I want a over-the-top deluxe version of this game. Give me like metal pieces and realistic resources. Uh, Give me some of the expansions that came with the original print. Put them in the base game, and this way it's modular for people to want to play it. Give me individualized pieces like a lot of worker placements are doing nowadays. So like the yellow player is this character, whereas the white player is this character. And so give me something massive. It's such a good worker placement. It's probably one of my favorite worker placements on my list. And I just wanted to have that deluxe feel.
Nice. That's a good pick. The newer version, yeah, it was $20 more, I think, from retail, and it was fairly underwhelming. Like, they had a foil box. It was a double-sided board, which was good. I mean, I still
added a little bit, little extra stuff like with the animals that you had to deal with. Everybody had to deal with.
Right, like better meeples. The meeples were screen printed. Those were cool, but yeah, it wasn't like as over the top as I could have done it, but it was decent for an anniversary edition. For sure.
No, but give me a deluxe version. I think out of all the games except for the next one, I think it needs a deluxe version.
Awesome, cool.
And the next one, I want a deluxe version, but I want it fixed for a whole different reason.
Awesome. Okay. Then we'll definitely talk about that. So my first one it's out of print, and I would like to see it come back. And this game came in a box that was bigger than almost any other game I have. It was as thin.
What about that one right behind you?
Well, it's not as thick, right? But it was in like a Milton Bradley thickness, and the box probably was like the size of one of these whole shelves, because you take the cover off, the lid, and it's a completely solid box that is the board, and there's a plastic insert for the 5 pawns. That's it. It's 5 pawns and a board. Okay? It's a game called Chaseback. I think it was made in either the 50s or 60s, and it's an abstract game where you have 5 different rows that are color coordinated, and all the pawns start in the middle. There is no chance. It is a strategy game, and all the spaces are numbered. So what you can do is you can move a pawn, and that will land on a number, and that's the number of spaces the next pawn has to move. And then there's certain ones that will lock in place the other pawns, and so you're trying to get 3 of them to your side before your opponent can get 3 of the 5 to their side. It's a really interesting little game, fun strategy game, and it came in this overly produced 1950s empty box. I remember taking this massive lid off, and then there's no board. It's a sealed shut box. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I'll probably bring it out here in a minute. It's right sitting down there. I'll probably just have to show you it. Like, I don't think I've ever shown you this before. No. But that's my first pick. I want them to bring that back because it was actually a really fun game. I was thoroughly impressed with it. So, while I'm getting that copy, what is your next pick?
Okay, I'm just checking something real quick because I'm getting an echo on my side. It might be just because we switched headphones. Alright, so my next pick is one of my favorite games of all time, and the game that made me a Feldian. And that is Castles of Burgundy. And now my issue is, yes, it just got a reprint. It just became the Castles of Burgundy Anniversary Edition. But I have issues with that version. It's a lot like the original game. It looks exactly the same. And my big thing with Castles of Burgundy, Alea, be colorblind friendly. Stop it with the browns and the greens. Make it more vibrant. This game could pop on a table if you put the vibrancy of the colors, because there's always these tiles laying around. You have it in the dice. Why don't you put color in the board game? Why has it got to be brown and green and pastel yellow and all this and that? Yeah. No, give us some nice color to this game. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
Some upgraded resources, make the cardboard a little thicker. But yeah, just give us a deluxe version of this that's colorblind friendly.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be great to have like screen printed like plastic pieces, kind of like the geek up bits for that? Ooh,
Yes.
inlaid board and everything. Oh man,
Yeah.
that'd
Yeah,
be
no,
slick.
and like I said, it's one of my favorite games. It's probably in my top 10, if not my top 5. That is a ridiculous size box.
Right? This is let me compare it to the thickness of Gloomhaven. Okay. Now look, here's how this works. I want to show you what the box is. When you take the lid off, the instructions are on the inside. Like,
well, that's a lot of the older games too. They used to do that.
that's the board.
That's crazy.
It's a filled box, and then here's the 5 pawns for it. That's all it is. It could have been in a this could be a very compact game, and it could be really fun, but it's not, unfortunately. Yeah, I just wanted to show you that because it's almost comically oversized.
Yeah, bit.
Yeah. So, all right, my number 2 is a game that has been around since the 80s. They have had expansions for it. It has been popular, and it's really a bad game, and I want to see it come back and reworked. This is the one that I think Restoration Games could really do a wonder with. And
I wonder if it's my number 1. Go ahead and say it.
It might not be, actually. I3 brought it up the other day, and I played it every year for Halloween. It is Nightmare, the board game.
Nope, not my number 1. Close, though.
I didn't think so. Nightmare, the board game, was this game that used a VHS tape.
EB3 posted Mousetrap?
Yeah, Mousetrap would be a fantastic reprint if they actually made a good game out of it. That would be cool.
If they can actually get the actual Mousetrap to work, it would be on par.
Mine would work more often than not, but that was iffy. I mean, the game with Mousetrap is you're just putting together the pieces and then watching it go. You didn't really care about the game. But, but Nightmare, it was this old game where you're trying to find 6 keys, and then you're trying to get to the center first, all within an hour of this VHS tape recording guy who's like one of the worst actors I've ever seen, yelling at you, belittling you, calling you maggots. It's created a meme in our house where we just stop and go, "I want to play a game. Stop, maggots." And you talk in this absurd voice because the guy is so over the top, it's hilarious. I feel like that with an interactive app would be awesome, and if making an actual good game out of it, I think Restorations would be able to do a lot of games, or a lot of great things with it. The only thing is Nightmare technically is still in print. I know they made a DVD version. I haven't seen it. And they also made a game called Atmosphere, which was its sequel, which is it's a very similar game. You have to get like 6 skulls or something like that, and then get to it. But either way, I would love to see that reprinted as a gamer game. I think it'd be phenomenal. So that's my number 2 pick.
So my number 1 is an older game. It was made in the 80s, and I never played it. But I've seen it. I've looked at it. I've wanted to play it when I was a kid.
Okay.
And it's a big part of it. My number 1 game, which is sitting right behind you, is Gloomhaven. And mine's over there. And it's because it was a mass market game that gave you the Dungeons and Dragons feel. It was a Milton Bradley game. And I think Restoration Games would make this amazing. Hero Quest.
Oh, yeah. Hero Quest. Yeah. They would
I think a reworking with Restoration would... from everything I hear, it's not a bad mass production game, but it wasn't great. And I think Restoration has proven that they can make good mass production games and turn them into better. I think every Restoration game I've played, other than Fireball Island, which is still decent enough as it is, just not one of my favorite of the Restoration games, they have turned them into really good games, and I think they can do the same for Hero Quest.
That'd be cool, yeah. I mean, they technically remade Hero Quest with that Magic the Gathering arena is technically a re-implementation of it. But they didn't support it. They made 2 expansions for it. One was this big behemoth dude, and the other one was just kind of like another base set, like another expandalone. And I have all of the pieces that they ever made for it, all 3 sets, and it wasn't hard to find, but now they stopped producing it.
Isn't from everything I hear about Magic the Gathering reprint, is more of a reprint of HeroScape than it is of Hero Quest.
Oh, you know what? You're right. It is. I'm getting those mixed up, aren't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Hero Quest is that dungeon crawl game that Milton Bradley produced
That's
in
right.
the 80s.
That's right. Because they made
brother's actually had a
HeroScape
copy of this
same
when
way.
I was a kid.
Yeah.
Of Hero Quest, not HeroScape.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I was too young to play it, apparently.
Well, I mean, it had demons, and it was bad for the youth.
And mind you, when it came out, I was 5.
You were 5. Okay. That's fair. Alright, I'm looking at the stream real quick. I want to make sure it's still working. It looks like it froze up a little bit.
No, on my side, it looks pretty good, so...
Okay. It could just be mine. Alright, so... And lastly, my number 1 pick is a game that was made in the 50s. No surprise here. It is a game that I've only ever seen one version of. I'm sorry, they made 2 versions. They made one that was around the world and one that was in space. But both in the 50s. It's called Astron. And the idea of the game is you would have cards. This is one of the first play card to move ones that I've seen in a while. So for example, you would have cards that might say move forward 3 spaces, or move back, or move left or right 2, or it might say a combination of them, move forward 2 and right 1, and you would be moving these, or move another player's pawn forward or to the side or whatever. And the idea of what you were trying to do is you were trying to get to certain bases to draw victory point cards, and they'd be either really small point cards like 5-10 points, or up to like 50 points. So it was hugely unbalanced of how it worked. And it might have been closer to that. That's just what I remember of it. But what made the game amazing? Oh, and you wanted to put your opponents into the storm spaces, but you couldn't directly do that. Indirectly, though, also on some of the cards would say move the map X number of spaces. And the map itself was on a large roll of paper, and it had a grid on this, and it was a massive roll, and it had 2 wooden dowels on each side of the board, and the board itself was covered with a plastic overlay with the grid on it as well. So you'd only have to stay on the overlay, and then when it said move the map, everybody would grab parts of the dowels and rotate the board underneath it. So you knew that you were going to shove an opponent into if there were 3 spaces behind a storm, because they had to get some victory points, and you move that map 3 spaces, they're going to launch right into the storm and then get a bunch of negative points. It's such a cool implementation of a game, and I just remember having this giant scroll of a map. I know the normal one. I don't remember the one I played. You started on one side of the earth and you flew to the other, so you went around the world. Astron, I believe, was the version where you were in a spaceship and you end up leaving Earth's atmosphere and flying off into space, and that's where the end of the map would be. And so, oh my god, it was so fun. There was something so satisfying about just playing a card, boom, and you're in a storm. Haha, take that. It's like, well, yeah, but I'm going to move the map backwards. We just had to be super careful, I remember, because we didn't know how much they rolled or how old that paper was. I mean, 70-something years. Yeah. It was old paper, but man, that game was fun, and I haven't seen anything like it in a long time. So, I hope that they reprint it. I really do.
So, that was an interesting game. Never even heard of it.
Yeah, I'll have to show you the Board Game Geek for it. It was really something neat. I don't know. I was gonna go into obscure games with this.
I knew you were going straight into obscure games. That's why I had to make sure games people understood and heard of them before.
Yeah, you're gonna be the groundwork for that. Where I'm talking about weird ones that nobody has seen.
What is he talking about?
Oh,
what
yeah.
is going on?
One of my favorite things to find board games, or favorite places to find board games, is antique stores. I love the old school stuff. That is just so over the
In
top
fact,
and
I
amazing.
still have one of the board games you gave me that was from an antique store.
Really? Which
It's
one?
the solo baseball game. I still have fun with it. I just haven't
Oh
played it in a while.
yeah, yeah. I did. I had a massive like it was a roll and write, wasn't it?
In a sense, yeah.
Yeah, I remember it had a massive like sheet or pad of paper with it,
Yeah.
and it was a one-player baseball game.
Yeah, it's called Solo Play, I think.
Hmm, that's awesome. You're gonna have to
Yeah.
show me how to play that again because I remember I got it and I was like, oh, this is neat. This is a lot of math. This is a lot of like statistics that I need to calculate by rolling dice, and it's a roll and
I'm
write.
a huge baseball fan, so that's perfect for me. I
Exactly.
follow Moneyball. I keep up with like the WHIP and the OBS and the OPS, and
Nice.
so all that stuff is like this is before all that. So this is like the old school statistics, the win-loss records, and the ERA and stuff like that.
Right. Well, then I'm glad that's worked for you, man. I
So I
really am.
haven't played it in about a year now, but I think since I'm not getting any sports right now, I might bust it out and play
There you
play
go.
my own sports.
That'd be fun. That'd be really great. Yeah, you should. That'd be good fun. Now that's giving me so many cool like ideas for games. Now is like revisiting these old ones. Like, what did I like about those? Now I can't help but think of just like obscure mechanisms that haven't been seen in half a century that I want to bring back. So this is fun
Yeah,
for me on
it
this
was
end.
it was a decent topic. It was harder than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
So before we go ahead and end this part of the podcast, if the three or anybody else in the chat would like to talk about some games that they think need a reprint, go ahead and do it. If you can't, we'll go ahead and end the podcast here in a minute.
All right. Yeah. So we'll talk. Hey, what have you been playing lately?
Absolutely nothing but video games.
Yeah, but you just placed an order online, if I'm not mistaken,
Oh
right?
yes, I did.
Let's talk about that.
So I have some games coming in. I ordered, let's see here, Cartographers, which honestly I'm surprised it took me this long to get it because I have everything else in the role player universe. I have role player, minions and versus minions and monsters. I think is what it's called. I have the Kickstarter newest expansion, role player familiars.
Uh-huh.
I have Lockdown. I have Lockdown, which is
But lock up, right?
or Lock Up, which is the worker placement game within that universe. And then I have now Cartographers finally come in, which is their flipping right in that universe. You're mapping out the world of role player.
Is it safe to say that now anything else that comes in that universe, you're probably gonna?
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
that's safe to say. I role player is. It's funny because we're going to be doing a YouTube video here soon, introducing ourselves because all the podcasts on here get uploaded to our YouTube channel, and we're going to do an introduction on that where we're going to talk about our top games, and role player is going to probably be one I talk about because that's how much I enjoy that game, solo and multiplayer.
Awesome, very cool. Yeah, I have a few universes of games that anytime I see them, I'll probably pick them up if possible. Oh, the Oniverse, that's a perfect example of that. Anything in
Another
the
one for
field
me,
area.
I haven't ordered it, and I only own one game in the universe, but I want to get more, and that's the Ryan Lockett universe.
Oh yeah.
Above and Below, Near and Far, Sleeping Gods,
Megaland.
Megaland. What is that one we played that Dom has, like the worker placement? That's not Sleeping Gods, is it?
Oh no. Oh, I don't.
Ancient World, I think it's something
Ancient
like that.
World. I
And
believe
then
so.
Empires of the Void. All this in the same universe. And I really enjoy those games.
And then Rome. Rome was a cool
Rome.
one.
Yeah.
The
We
pattern
had fun with that
one. Yeah, I enjoyed that one a lot actually.
But yeah, so those universe. Another game that I bought in that is Pioneer Days. You showed it to me on stream yesterday. And for $20, a $60 game MSRP, and I got it for $20. I can't complain.
Yeah, those
Looking
components
forward
are
to that.
fantastic too.
Also got Detective, and then I don't know why. Again, this took me so long. I also got the expansion to Gloomhaven.
Yeah. Well, I mean that expansion is intended to be played after the campaign, right?
Yeah, and I'm not that far into the campaign, but I'm like, with Frosthaven coming out sometime next year, I might as well get this, and hopefully we can start playing it once again. Because it's all contingent if we can get together with our friend Jim. So.
Right. That makes sense. You need to find a way to do it over video chat. Drop off the deck of cards for him for his character. I mean, you don't need it.
I mean, there's a
It's
way we
fine.
can do it. What I want to do first is I want to get a webcam because my thing is, our everything's starting to open up. I probably won't start hanging out with people again till June. We in New Mexico have a stay-at-home order till the 15th of May, and even
As
then,
of right now. Yeah.
And then so even if they relax and open up the state after the 15th, I may wait till June just to see what happens within that 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah, it better be safe than sorry, and see if it like starts jumping up again. Which but from what I hear, New Mexicans are pretty great at staying home. Like apparently, we have like one of the best stay-at-home records so far.
Yeah, we're not going out there and being crazy about it. So
yeah, exactly. It's like, well, there's not much else to do anyway. But
and then we have all these things behind us that we enjoy.
I know, yeah. Like if only I could play that with you now. I think once the restrictions ease up, then we'll probably just have some more game nights. But I look forward to that. But
then my thing is, until everything settles down, I'm probably not going to go to any conventions anytime soon. Probably not at least till next year.
Yeah.
But also, I'm going to keep like our gaming stuff down. I may not even go back to the shop if they have board game nights. I may go there just to buy some stuff, but I probably won't go to board game night at the shop. Yeah. More so just for protection. Also, my wife is a healthcare worker, so I have a higher likely chance of getting it because she has a higher likely chance of getting it at the hospital.
Right. Which makes sense, yeah. No use of risking it. And you could be a carrier without knowing it, and then come to the game night and infect everybody by passing germs on cardboard.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's the one bad thing about our hobby, right?
Yeah. Mind you, those are all the board games I just bought. I also bought, through Amazon, Castles of Burgundy, the dice game.
Oh, yeah. We need to play that. Actually, we're going to be able to play that then, because that is a roll and write.
Once I get the pad, you'll be able to run the thing over video.
Yep, exactly. So we'll definitely be doing that. They'll give me an excuse to read it again. So that's awesome. Yeah. And I should be getting my package again today. I'm still looking at the tracking order. It's staying out for delivery before the end of the day, and I really want it because it's about 7 games. But I'll bring those on to Twitch tomorrow.
Phil Walker Harding at that.
There is at least 2 Phil Walker Harding.
I came this close to getting Gingerbread House, but I decided to go Cool Stuff Inc. rather than Miniature Market.
Right. Yeah, that I don't blame you. I mean, cool. Man, it's such a good game. Gingerbread House.
Harding, he's such a simple designer, but he makes such good games. Barren Park, Emotep, Gingerbread House I really enjoyed. There was another one that he made that I've played, Silver and Gold.
Oh, yeah. Silver and Gold. The adventure games, you were asking me about those.
Yeah, well, like I said, I was looking. I just needed something to help push me over $100 so I can get free shipping. But they only had the one for pre-order, and the way Cool Stuff Inc. works is until that pre-order comes into place, the rest of your stuff doesn't get shipped out.
Right, which I get why they're trying to combine the shipping, but at the same time, I want it now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's like when you were saying, well, you can save it for this and go to here and go. I'm like, but I want board games now, and I'm getting Detective for $35 and Pioneer Days for $20.
Yeah, no, you have a good deal with that. Detective is a great game. You'll love it, I promise. And I mean, wow, $20 for Pioneer Days is a good deal. That one unfortunately flew under the radar.
It's funny,
I was thoroughly impressed with it.
I watched the Watch It Played, the Rodney Smith how to play the game for Pioneer Days.
Oh,
and
yeah.
As I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be right up my alley.
Yeah, I'm starting to. So Matthew Dunstan, who's one of the designers on that, he comes up with games a lot here and there that I've started hearing his name more, and because he works with Phil Walker Harding sometimes as well. So both of the adventure games were Matthew Dunstan and Phil Walker Harding, so it's streamlined. And so now that I found that out, his name is popping up more. And he made another one called Costa Rica, where you...
Oh, yeah. I heard about that one. I want to try that one, actually.
Yeah, it's very simple. It's a push your luck game, but it has this massive board of tiles, and as a group, you decide if you want to keep pushing or not to wherever you bring your tiles to, and then as soon as somebody decides, all right, well, I want to drop out of this group, then they take all the tiles that have been revealed, and they're done. You cannot have them back. So everybody will take 5 groups of tiles. That's it. And then you score, and then that's the points. Like, that's brilliant. That's awesome.
Yeah, no,
smart.
it sounds like a really good game. So, we had no new stuff in the chat. So before we go, let's go ahead and talk about our next couple podcasts coming up.
Okay.
This Friday, Top 8 Debate, we're finishing off Top IP board games. This one is going to be the novel bracket. And before we finish, before we go into it, so at the end of the last episode, you wanted to add more IPs, basically having an overall reach. Right. We looked into it and found out that we just can't. We haven't played enough of the games in video games or miscellaneous to be able to give you 4 games and make whole nother bracket for it. So the winner of the novels will go on to face Horrified, who won the TV, radio, and movie section. And we'll find out what the overall best top IP is.
Do you want to go over the bracket right now? Or would you like me to?
I can. If you want me to.
Let's go back and forth.
All right. So you have the bracket in front of you.
Yep.
All right. Number 1 seed, Eldritch Horror, will be facing the number 8 seed, Dresden File.
Our number 2 seed, Game of Thrones, the board game, will be facing our number 7 seed. I'm sorry. 3rd seed will be facing... I guess I'd make it 6th seed, Elder Sign.
Our number 4 seed, Arkham Horror, will be facing the 5 seed, Sheriff of Nottingham.
And our number 2nd seed versus our number 7th seed, Lord of the Rings, Journeys to Middle-earth versus Unmatched.
And the winner of this bracket will, of course, face what was the number 4 seed of the TV show Movie Brackets Horrified, as mentioned earlier, to determine who the overall IP champion is.
Exactly. And then also, to go over this, since we couldn't find enough video game IPs, we thought for next week, our discussion topic for Chits and Giggles would be, what are some video games you want to see made into board games? What would be an easy transition for them? What are some that you would just love to have a board game themed of? Maybe you have fond memories from your childhood playing video games of. Or maybe they already did make a board game of it, and it's not very good.
Well, it's funny. I actually heard one of the games that popped in my mind. I'm like, oh, wait, they've made a game for this before we get into the topic, and that's God of War, the most recent version of God of War off the PlayStation 4.
Right.
And I've heard actually really good things about this card game, so I'm interested in picking it up and trying it out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if we wanted to give some shout-outs, Fallout the board game. I'm not familiar with the IP, but it's a very popular video game franchise. And it... Did we skip any?
No, we said them all. That's we said all 8.
Yeah, okay. So we'll go over those again here in a minute. But yeah, like Fallout the board game, really fun board game. I mean, it's definitely a Fantasy Flight game. You take 2 hours to get 2 points,
Yeah, give or take. I get it. I want to play it. I want it bad.
Yeah.
Just because I'm such a huge Fallout fan.
Yep. Let's go over those brackets real quick, just for our viewers. That's Eldritch Horror versus Dresden Files.
3 seed Game of Thrones, the board game, versus 6 seed Elder Sign.
4th seed Arkham Horror versus 5th seed Sheriff of Nottingham.
And the number 2 seed Lord of the Rings, Journey to Middle-earth versus the number 7 seed Unmatched.
There you go. So tune in next Friday for us to debate these. This upcoming Friday in 2 days from now, and we will be starting the bracket online soon, so you can take a vote for that as well.
Also, just so everybody knows, what video games should be board games topic might not be on Wednesday. We may have a special guest joining us, And so because of their schedule, we'll either do it Wednesday night. It doesn't do. Excuse me. Sorry, I got distracted by the chat. We might not. We either do it Wednesday night or we may do it on Thursday afternoon.
So, Shadzar, the reason why it didn't include Hero Quest is that it's based off of books and whatnot. And even though Hero Quest technically is, even if it were on the list, the way we pick these lists, and just so we can have a proper debate on them, is we take the top 8 ranked on Board Game Geek that Daniel and I have both played. So if it excludes some of the games, that means it either wasn't ranked high enough on Board Game Geek, or one of us or both of us have not played it. So what was an example of that for this week? I think there was one that we actually discussed a bit, that either I played it and you hadn't, or vice versa. There was quite a few of them.
For the novels, it was the Arkham Horror LCG.
Oh yeah, because I have not played the Arkham Horror LCG, so we wouldn't be able to do a proper debate on that. But I mean, by all means, if you think Hero Quest would have been included in that, then that works. There's probably a reason why it would be ranked that high. So, with that being said, I think that's how we're going to end today's episode. Thank you for tuning in and joining in on the chat. As always, I am Daniel.
And I'm Daniel.
And this has been the Everyday Board Game Podcast with our Chits and Giggles episode. Thank you again.
Have a good one.